All right, welcome everyone to another deep dive. We take a dense stack of information, and try to get those key insights so you can walk away feeling like an expert and, maybe even a little bit surprised by what you've learned.
And this time, our stack is, well, it's pretty interesting. We've got excerpts from Cassandra Clare's City of Fallen Angels.
Yeah, no research papers this time. We're going full fiction. But
Right.
that doesn't mean we can't learn something. I mean, think about it. We're going to see how the characters develop, we're going to uncover the mysteries, and of course, there's always plenty of drama in the Shadowhunter world, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
And City of Fallen Angels is definitely a turning point in the series. So let's start with Simon. Now remember, he's a daylighter, so
yeah.
no problem with sunlight, but he can't eat human food anymore. And we find him at the Selka late at night, that classic New York diner, just ordering coffee.
And it's more than just the food, I think. It feels like he's avoiding talking to Isabel about, where they stand, especially with Maya in the picture now.
Yeah.
And both of them are going to Clary's mother's wedding.
Right, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And it shows how even personal events in this world can become so complicated. Because you've got Downworlders and Shadowhunters, all these different factions, and they don't always see eye to eye.
Yeah, totally. And then Isabel shows up, and she does not hold back. She's like, why here and not the Takis? They'd serve you blood there in front of everyone.
I know, right? And it makes you wonder if she really understands what it means for Simon to be a daylighter. It's not just about being a vampire who can walk in the sun. It's about, like, his whole identity, his connection to the human world.
Absolutely. And Simon tries to change the subject, talking about Veselka with Clary back when she was at Tish, the borscht and blintzes. And then Isabel sees this Halloween decoration, Count Blintzela.
That was hilarious. I mean, she's so confused, right? This powerful shadow hunter who's fought demons and all this doesn't understand the idea of a counting vampire on a kid's show.
It's like these two worlds clashing. And speaking of clashes, there's trouble brewing with Raphael and other vampires. They want something from Simon.
Yeah, and Simon's definitely not eager to see Raphael. Then Mr. Archer shows up, the shadow hunter, and he's like, stay out of it. This is night children business. So there's definitely this tension between downworlders and shadow hunters, even when it involves someone like Simon.
And then enter Camille. She summons Simon, pretending it's like she's interrupting a date, even though he was just, getting coffee.
Typical vampire drama.
Yeah.
And she's playing mind games with him, right? She's like, why are you still living with your mom? Why haven't you joined a clan? Basically saying he's not a real vampire.
Exactly. And the way she talks about his daylighter status like it's a good thing, while Simon sees it as a curse, really shows how different their views are.
And she keeps pushing, questioning his future, suggesting Raphael's isolating him, keeping secrets. Classic divide and conquer.
Then she offers to share her ancient knowledge, things about surviving eternity, even speaking the name of God. And she claims Raphael's hiding this from Simon.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely her playing him, trying to get him on her side. It's all about power for her.
Right, definitely. And then Simon goes to Clary's place and finds her asleep, and she's distressed, even whispering his name.
That's such a powerful moment. It shows how deep their bond is, even if it's not romantic anymore.
Right, and he doesn't wake her up. I think he wants to protect her from all the heavy stuff he's dealing with.
Then, right after talking to Camille, his instinct is to call Clary. But he remembers his promise and stops himself.
Yeah, but he needs to talk to her, so he ends up calling anyway, just to, complain about his love life, their usual thing.
Meanwhile, Clary and Isabel are talking about Simon. And it's funny, Isabel's describing her diner date, but gets some things wrong.
Yeah.
Calls it a restaurant and mentions pink soup instead of borscht.
Maybe it wasn't that memorable for her. But then she mentions Simon called her, and Clary's like, oh yeah, he called me too, and Isabel's mood changes instantly.
Jealous much.
Yeah.
But then she acts all cool, like it's just playing around. But you can tell she's not thrilled about Simon dating other people.
No, definitely not. Okay, so moving on to Clary and Jace. Clary's feeling this huge sense of relief now that the recent crisis is over.
Yeah, it's like, take a breath, the world's not ending. For now.
Yeah.
But of course, she still has to be home by 11. Shadowhunter or not, mom's rules are mom's rules.
I gotta love Jocelyn. And Jace walks Clary out of the Institute, and it's so quiet. Everyone's gone. Robert, Hodge, Max, Alex with Magnus.
That's like a reminder of all they've lost, all the changes. And then back to Simon's world, his bandmates are still looking for a new singer.
And Clary suggests Kyle, even calls him super hot right in front of Simon.
I mean, I get it. Kyle is good looking, but That's got to be awkward for Simon, right?
No.
Especially with this whole 13-year-old Maureen claiming to be his girlfriend thing.
Yeah, that's weird. And then Kyle actually shows up, super chill, offering to try out, but also willing to leave if it's not working out.
You know, he seems pretty normal considering, well, what we find out later. But the effects of the recent battles are still there. I mean, Clary mentions the Raumium demons, and Simon almost throws up.
Yeah, not a pretty sight. And then Simon's thinking about Camille's words, how he'll always be an outsider to the Shadowhunters.
It's like she planted this seed of doubt in his mind, you know, making him question where he belongs.
But Clary reassures him about the mark, how it protects him. She even touches his forehead, thinking about the day she gave it to him.
That's such a sweet moment between them. But the danger is real. Simon's walking down the street and bam, he's attacked. This guy with a shimmering knife, clearly not just a random mugging.
And Simon doesn't even react, and the attacker just dissolves into these shimmering crystals. Like, what was that?
It's like some unseen force protected him, right? But who and why? Lots of questions. But Simon, being Simon, touches the remnants.
Well, someone's got to investigate. But even with all this craziness, he still goes to check on his mom.
That's so sweet. And he uses his powers to make her think he's on a school trip so she won't worry.
But he can see her aging, and it's got to be hard for him, you know? He's stuck in time while everyone else moves on.
Okay, now switching gears to Jace. He's feeling so guilty about, well, basically liking Valentine more than his actual father. That's got to be tough.
Definitely. And then Clary shows up at his room wearing, well, not her usual gear. A tank top, an open blouse, a short skirt.
Oh, yeah. Jace definitely noticed. And she says she missed him. Her mom and Luke are asleep, so.
Classic sneaking out scenario. And Jace is like, you shouldn't be here, but, you know, he's totally into it.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
And they kiss, and it's passionate, reminding Jace of how much he cares for her.
And he even remembers being jealous of Simon. Old feelings die hard, huh?
Apparently not. Later, Clary's tracing the scars on Jace's back, including the star-shaped one they both have.
She says she never wants to lose him, and he reassures her, but...
But then he has these awful nightmares where he hurts and kills Clary. Talk about a mood killer.
No kidding. And he tries everything to stop them, but nothing works. He can't even look at her without thinking about it.
He's so afraid she'll find out, and it's tearing them apart. And he keeps thinking about Valentine, that whole to love is to destroy thing.
It's like Valentine's shadow is still hanging over him. Okay, so Simon's sitting on the steps of the Brooklyn Public Library, having a bit of a moment.
And then Raphael shows up on a demon-powered motorcycle. Because of course he does.
As you do. And he's so snobby, like, why did you call me all the way to Brooklyn?
Classic Raphael.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Clary's trying to sketch Jace while he's asleep in Central Park.
That's adorable. They were supposed to be training, but mostly had a picnic, and Jace wasn't eating much, seemed really sad.
Yeah, he's not doing well. And he even asks Clary to repeat that she'll never leave him. He needs that reassurance.
Poor Jace. And she does, and he responds with this Dante quote about love. So romantic, even with all the darkness.
But then, boom, the Sealy Queen shows up. Talk about bad timing.
Seriously. And Jace is immediately on guard, protecting Clary.
And the Queen, being the Queen, announces another Nephilim death. And she's being all manipulative, like, you shadow hunters should be careful about being too hospitable to downworlders.
Stirring the pot as usual. And she mentions a fairy being on the council now, which is a big power shift.
And Jace isn't buying it, making sarcastic remarks about her good faith.
Good for him. And then she turns to Clary and asks if Jace truly loves her, you know, considering he's bound to her.
Oh, yeah. She's good at twisting the knife. Later, Clary calls Simon, stressed out about Clave business. She's in Manhattan and offers him Luke's couch.
Always looking out for him. And Simon's alone again, and he realizes he can easily say, I love you to Clary now.
But the meaning's changed, right? It's not romantic anymore. And he wonders what might have been if Jace hadn't come along.
But there's no point dwelling on that. And he's facing this uncertain future, stuck in Eric's garage, running low on blood, worried about his mom.
Yeah, it's a lot to deal with. And all his human memories are getting blurry.
He even thinks about running away, but he can't leave his loved ones behind.
So he's stuck.
Yeah.
And he sleeps badly and wakes up to Kyle cooking bacon. Werewolf breakfast.
Now Maya calls Simon, offering to go with him to the wedding. She's trying to be cool, but you can tell she cares.
Yeah, and she even mentions their outfits might clash. So cute.
Yeah.
Then we're at the bridal store, and Jocelyn's so excited to see Clary.
Luke arrives late and gets her black coffee as an apology.
Sweet gesture. Maya gives Luke a message from the pack about a party.
Always something going on in the downworld. And then the owner's like, okay, Luke, you have to wait outside while Jocelyn tries on the dress.
Classic. Later, Simon asks Clary what's up with Jace, but she avoids the topic.
She's keeping his secrets, but she does ask about Simon's living situation, surprise he's with Kyle.
Yeah, that is unexpected. And she jokes about Kyle being a serial killer.
Gotta love Clary's dark humor. Simon even invites her over, but she's hesitant. Probably wants to see Jace.
Probably. Now, they're all at a diner, Clary, Simon, Jocelyn, and Luke. But Clary's quiet, thinking about Jace.
And Simon's watching people at a gym, feeling completely detached.
And then Clary makes a comment about abandoned babies, and Jocelyn totally freaks out, runs to the bathroom.
It's like a trigger for her, you know? And Clary feels awful.
Simon tries to comfort her, but then Clary reveals she thinks Jocelyn hated Valentine and mourned the son she could have had.
It's a messed up situation, and Simon's like, yeah, your brother turned into a murdering psychopath.
Keeping it real. Later, Jace actually acknowledges Simon's earlier comment, so maybe they're making some progress.
Small steps. And then Jace confronts Simon about the mugger, recognizing the mark of Cain.
He's like, I've never seen anything like it.
But Simon insists he didn't do anything.
Jace is starting to put the pieces together, though.
Clary makes an excuse about seeing Jace tomorrow, still avoiding him. And then Mary Lightwood shows up, all formal, calling Luke Lucian.
And she's dressed up and surprised to see Clary. Something's definitely up.
And she tells them Anson Pangborn and Charles Freeman, former Circle members, are dead. They hadn't been heard from since Valentine.
Now that's concerning. Clary's like, wait, I thought Luke killed Pangborn, meaning Emil, his brother.
Yeah, confusing family ties, but Maurice clarifies it was Anson, Emil's brother.
And Luke suggests someone's targeting former Circle members to cause trouble.
Smart theory. And Marissa's already talked to the Seelie Queen and Magnus, trying to get information.
She even asked Luke for insights. Sounds like she's hitting dead ends.
Back with Simon, he's looking at himself in the mirror, those dark veins, feeling so different.
And he finds Jace in Kyle's apartment, reading. Jace looks like he splashed water on his face, trying to wake up.
Then Jace reveals he followed Simon after the attack. He's been watching over him.
And Simon's not happy about needing protection. But Jace saw how he reacted, and it's like he knows it wasn't the first time.
So Simon tells him about the first attacker dissolving into salt, even making a biblical reference.
Okay, now they're at a grocery store. Simon gets a mango, and Jace, surprisingly, wants tomato soup.
I know, right? And Simon's thinking about how Jace doesn't care about food while he's constantly craving blood.
Such different needs. Simon even feels a bit of sympathy for Shadowhunters, their whole privileged life.
But then some teenage girls are like, checking Jace out, so much for that.
Meanwhile, Clary and Luke are at the Silent City, which still feels weird to Clary.
Maris leaves them to talk to the Silent brothers, and there aren't many left after Valentine's attack.
It's a reminder of how much damage Valentine caused. Then Maurice comes back with Brother Zachariah, introducing Clary.
Seems Clary's kind of famous now. They go to the examination room, and it's so somber.
Brother Zachariah asks if they're prepared, and then they go into this creepy room with all these weird tools.
3 marble tables, one with a covered body. Intense.
Clary's feeling sick, Luke's being protective, and Maurice is just curious.
Maurice demands to know the dead Shadowhunter's name.
And then the body moves and talks about pain. Freaky.
Clary and Luke are horrified, but Maurice keeps questioning the body.
It whispers Camille before dissolving when Luke throws acid on it. Yikes.
Luke's not happy about how Maurice treated the body, but she's like, we have a name, we can stop more deaths.
She's focused on the mission, but Luke just wants to get out of there.
Back with Jace and Simon, Jace keeps asking if Simon knows anyone who wants to kill him.
But Simon's frustrated, feeling like Jace isn't listening. Jace is eating cold soup straight from the can, still not himself.
And Simon's watching people outside, feeling this emptiness, like he doesn't belong.
He mentions he's eating blood.
And Jace is all, blood isn't food, it's blood. So dramatic.
Simon throws some sarcasm back, and Jace warns him about trusting people too much.
Yeah, that's good advice in their world. Then things get interesting. Simon finds out Kyle's a werewolf.
Shocker. And Kyle's like, well, you didn't mention being a vampire either.
Fair point. And Jace reveals that Kyle knew all along. He can sense it. And then he points out the wolfsbane Kyle's growing.
So many secrets. Simon tries to calm everyone down, and Jace, even though he's being sarcastic, actually sits down.
Progress. And then Kyle joins them and reveals he's not part of a pack, but works with the Praetor Lupus.
Okay, now Luke shows up looking stressed and worried, and he calls Simon in early.
He's really concerned about him. And he brings up Simon's question about something being wrong with Jace.
So Simon admits he feels something's off too, like a headache. And he tells Luke about meeting Camille, her offer, knowing about his mark.
She basically said Raphael's hiding how powerful Simon is, trying to keep him down.
Manipulating him. And she gave him 5 days to decide.
Talk about pressure. Simon tells Luke he doesn't want to work for Camille if she's killing Shadowhunters.
He's got morals. And Luke reminds Simon of his own power as a daylighter, telling him not to forget it.
Important reminder. Back at Kyle's, Jace makes a sarcastic comment.
Some things never change. Kyle gets a bagel, and Jace refuses food.
Still not hungry, Simon offers him blood, but Jace declines.
He's really messed up. Then Simon suggests they lure out whoever's attacking him instead of constant surveillance.
It's a risky plan. And he even gives Jace relationship advice, telling him to stop avoiding Clary.
Wise words. But Jace gets all tense, saying there are things Clary doesn't know.
More secrets, and Simon's like, dude, she loves you, you owe her honesty.
Right, but Jace is all, there are more important things than honesty. Yikes.
Red flag alert. Now Clary's at the hospital with her mom, and she sees a warlock.
Busted. The warlock, Katerina Loss, is surprised Jocelyn brought Clary along, calling her just a kid.
Underestimating Clary, classic mistake. Jocelyn defends her, though.
Good mom. And Clary remembers seeing other warlocks, like Magnus, realizing Katerina must be using glamour.
She's learning. Then Katerina's like, Clarissa Morgenstern, the girl who stopped a war.
Her reputation precedes her. And Jocelyn confirms Katerina helped wake her up with Magnus. So they have a history.
Back at Kyle, Simon hides when he sees Katerina. Doesn't want to deal with that.
But Jace doesn't notice and tries to show him a picture of Alec and Magnus.
Awkward. Simon's not interested, even if Magnus is wearing lederhosen.
He's definitely not himself. Jace can tell something's off.
But Simon just says he's okay. Deep down, he's wishing Clary was there.
And he remembers she mentioned wedding stuff.
Yeah, he told Jace earlier, and Jace had a weird reaction to that.
Speaking of weird reactions, Raphael appears in Maria's office as a projection.
Fancy. He's like, is this a council meeting? Trying to figure things out.
And Mary's cuts to the chase, asking about the dead Shadowhunters.
But she gets impatient with Raphael being all worried about loss of face. Like, lives are at stake.
But Raphael explains how important that is for vampires.
Different world, different rules. Then he reveals he tricked Camille into leaving, making her think he was going to expose her.
Pretty smart. He couldn't take over, though, so he made it look like she just wandered off.
Okay, now Clary shows up at Kyle's, and Jace is so relieved to see her, then immediately bummed when he realizes she came on purpose.
Mixed signals much. Clary's hurt, and she confronts him, saying he needs to communicate if he wants to break up.
She's not playing games. Jace gives her back her phone, but doesn't really say anything.
Then he admits being with Simon was the closest he could get to her, hoping she'd forgive him.
What? That's not how this works. Clary's furious, not understanding what she's supposed to forgive.
Yeah, that's not a good explanation. She steps back and almost trips, and Jace catches her and they kiss.
Oh, Jace. Meanwhile, Simon's feeding on Maureen, and it's like this huge high, the ideal blood for vampires.
But he immediately feels terrible. The guilt is real.
And then that woman with the yellow umbrella shows up. Remember her? From Simon's performance.
Creepy. Okay, now we've got the ultimate awkward encounter. Simon, Isabel, and Maya.
They both find out they've been dating him.
Double busted. Isabel's in shock, and Maya's not happy either.
And Isabel's especially upset that he's dating her friends.
Yeah, that's crossing a line. So they team up and are both furious at Simon.
He thinks about running, but that's probably not a good idea against a Shadowhunter and a werewolf.
Remember? Maya told Simon her ex-boyfriend Jordan turned her and then left.
That's why Kyle only goes by one name. Then Jordan shows up and tells Simon that Maureen's okay.
He took care of it, gave her a memory wipe, and put her in a cab.
And Simon's like, wait, you're Jordan.
And Jordan confirms it, saying he goes by Kyle now since joining the Praetor Lupus.
More secrets revealed. And Jordan's surprised Maya's still talking to Simon.
He thought she'd hate him. And Simon mentions Maya said Jordan hit her.
That's heavy, and Jordan's really affected by that.
But Simon also says Maya said their relationship was great for a while, so it's complicated.
Now, Clary's online researching the Church of Talto, and she's not finding much.
Not a good sign. She figures it's a secret group, and they're messing with babies.
Scary stuff. And she wonders if the mom who abandoned the baby was part of it.
Chilling thought. Clary's freezing, but doesn't want to call Jocelyn, who's finally happy looking at wedding rings with Luke.
She's protecting her mom. And she knows the Clave would be mad if they knew she was investigating on her own.
Back to Jordan, he confirms he bit Maya, but regrets it.
He tried to reach her afterwards, but the Praetor Lupus stopped him, saying they'd take care of her.
So he had to join them to avoid punishment. Rough deal.
Now, Simon calls Maureen, and she's fine. No memory of the attack.
Jordan's confused about the threat to Simon's girlfriend.
But then Simon has this realization and calls Clary, panicking.
He got a note threatening his girlfriend. But Clary's fine. She's looking for the Church of Talto.
She finds this creepy building with a faded sign mentioning Talto.
Inside, she finds a Bible open to a passage about a dangerous woman.
And there are occult symbols.
And photos of women and babies. One baby with black eyes.
Creepy. Clary realizes someone's making babies like Jonathan Sebastian.
She gets this bad feeling and decides to leave and wait for backup. Good call.
And suddenly, we're with Simon. He's blindfolded in a cold place. Not a good start.
He finds himself in an abandoned bank, and Camille's there, being held by Alec and Isabel.
Plot twist. Meanwhile, Clary and Isabel are having girl talk, talking about Jace and intimacy.
Isabel's teasing Clary about being inexperienced.
And Clary admits they're taking things slow.
Isabel implies Jace is probably more experienced and even offers Clary protection.
Now Simon's worried about Alec, who's with Magnus, hoping they're okay.
And he notices how thin and lifeless Jace looks. His bitten nails, dark circles.
Jace is not doing well.
Yeah.
Simon tries to cheer him up, saying his plan worked.
Turns out Jace had Simon send a picture so the Conclave could portal to him.
Smart. But then Jace freaks out, asking if Clary's hurt. Isabel's like, chill, she's fine.
But Jace rushes off to find Clary, super worried. Isabel's left wondering what's going on with them.
Simon's like, maybe they don't even know themselves. Probably true. And then Isabel gets all serious, saying she doesn't want to be like, unserious about relationships.
Maybe she's growing up. And she wants to talk to Simon, heading towards the Institute doors.
Maybe there's hope for them yet. And Simon says maybe she picks unserious guys so she doesn't have to be serious herself.
And Isabel doesn't say anything, but looks at him intensely. Maybe he's right. Then Simon tells her he cares about her. Always has.
Oh. They're standing close, and there's definitely still something there.
Cut to Clary waking up at the Institute, and Jace is right there, watching over her.
Classic. Isabel even jokes about Clary dating a ghost, referring to Jace almost dying.
Dark humor. And Clary clarifies her question about past relationships, saying she meant commitment.
She wants to know where they stand. Jace doesn't say anything for a moment, then asks to see Clary's burns.
He's so focused on her safety. He examines them gently, remembering the first time he touched her.
Then he kisses her burns, and they hug. Finally, some connection.
But then Camille shows up, saying Simon's not hungry.
Like she always knows. And Simon denies it, but Camille says the Nephilim want vampires to deny their true nature, and that Simon's friends will never truly accept him.
Trying to drive a wedge between them. But then Magnus and Alec arrive through a portal.
Back up. Alec's like, why is this vampire so important? Not really getting it.
And Simon feels sick, wondering if Camille's enjoying this.
Poor Simon. But Alec realizes he was insensitive and apologizes.
Good. Then Clary needs to talk to Kadir and leaves.
More secrets. Simon pretends to look at a stained glass window, but he's eavesdropping on Magnus and Alec.
And Camille's listening too. Now Jace confesses to Clary that he has these awful dreams where he hurts and kills her.
That's heavy, and he feels responsible, like he can't stop it.
Clary's upset he didn't tell her. And Jace says he thought he was Jace Lightwood. Hoped he wasn't messed up by Valentine.
But now he thinks he might always be Jace Morgenstern, that people can't change.
So bleak. Clary connects this to Valentine's twisted view of love. And it's weird for her to even call Valentine Jace's father when his blood is in her too.
Yeah, that's a messed up family tree. Now Magnus is confronting Camille about spreading rumors.
They clearly don't have a good relationship. Camille says she always loved Magnus, but he's like, yeah, right.
He remembers her leaving him, feeling used.
And Camille admits she killed the Shadowhunters because they were Circle members who hurt Downworlders. Revenge.
But Magnus reminds her about the Claw's punishment.
Not good. So Camille asks Magnus to help her get immunity, but he doubts the Claw will agree.
She then hints that someone more powerful ordered the deaths.
A bigger bad. Intriguing. But she insists on immunity before saying anything else.
Then Mary shows up and sees Magnus and Camille.
Magnus tries to hide Camille with magic, but Alec and Mary's are there.
Mary asks if they have a deal, and Magnus says, not quite, but they need to talk.
More secrets.
Yeah.
Clary goes with Jace to his room, and he's packing for the Silent City. Clary calls it a grim sleepover.
Accurate. He packs weapons, including that silver knife.
And Clary's watching him, and she notices this tiny imperfection, and it's endearing to her.
But she's also sad, like she can barely breathe. Something's not right.
In the Silent City, Clary's convinced someone's manipulating Jace's mind.
And a silent brother says it's hypnomancy, dream magic.
Powerful stuff. Clary even suggests maybe angels are doing it.
That's a bold theory. And Brother Zachariah tells Clary and Jace to come with them.
Jace closes his eyes, and Clary remembers her own experience.
Jace stiffens, and there's this blinding light coming from the stars on the floor.
Brother Zachariah speaks to Jace gently, saying he wishes he'd known him before, seen his true nature.
He says they can't and shouldn't hurt Jace.
And then he explains that when Jace was resurrected, it stripped away some protections, making him vulnerable to demonic influence.
Makes sense. It's not possession, but like this constant influence wearing him down.
And Jace whispers, Jace Lightwood, not Herondale, trying to hold on to himself.
Clary kisses Jace, says she'll see him after the party, and there's hope in her voice.
Now Simon wakes up tired from nightmares and thinks about maybe sleeping during the day like other vampires.
But he feels the pull of the night, the craving for blood. It's a constant struggle.
Jace dreams of Valentine telling him to cut away the rot in his soul, with Max smiling creepily.
Disturbed much, Jace hesitates to stab himself, but then cuts his arms, drawing blood.
Max watches, his face changing, voice getting weird, asking if it hurts.
And then he quotes, "As you have dealt pain, so shall you be dealt pain." That's not good.
Now Simon's looking for Jace, and Isabel's not very welcoming.
He mentions Jace, but Isabel's like, Clary thought you were with him, maybe sneaking off together.
She's not worried, though. She trusts Clary. But she reminds Simon about the party at the Ironworks, saying Clary will be mad if Jace doesn't show up.
So we're at the Ironworks, and Luke's pack has decorated it beautifully.
And there's a werewolf string quartet playing classical music.
That's amazing. Clary's even thinking Werewolf String Quartet would be a good band name.
Totally. But she's nervous, adjusting decorations. Something feels off.
Yeah, not many guests yet, and none that she knows. And Jocelyn and Luke are greeting people. Jocelyn's happy, but you can tell she's stressed too.
She tells Clary she loves her and worries about her.
Mom stuff. And Clary almost makes a snarky comment, but stops herself. She wishes Jocelyn knew Jace better.
And surprisingly, Jocelyn agrees, saying she doesn't really know him, but she sees vulnerability in him, like his mother.
Interesting. And she says beautiful things are easily broken, foreshadowing.
Maybe. But she tells Clary,